I've got to give props really to Norman J, because it was Norman who put me onto the Tramps' Where Were You and the Lights Went Out. Cheapo's down in Soho. And he was the one that said, look, you need this record. And I got the record and then straight in the studio sampling it, do you know what I mean? But Norman had as you know, Norman's got a deep love of Philly, which I had, but my knowledge wasn't as deep as Norman's. But from looking at the sleeve once again of where, of the Tramps and that, you're like, oh right, okay, it's those players. Oh, I've got these other records with those same players on. So then you start. So eventually, it was kind of, that was the initial idea to do the Black Science Orchestra. It was almost like a Philly pastiche, if you want, but with a very strong British angle to it.
Yeah.
That whole jazz funk thing, which I was kind of trying to hold that flame still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like a modern production ethic as well.
Yeah. And if you look at the sleeve, it's a copy of an old CTI album. George Benson, and things like that. It was all those little reference points, and it was quite interesting because obviously the kids at that time, they were like, wow, it's, there's something going on here, do you know what I mean? And we got a lot of love for it, a lot of love. And we did actually make, the first album we made as Black Science Orchestra got shelved because the samples were just fucking mental, do you know what I mean? We were just big samples, really, and so Steve Hall, who was running Junior with Terry and that, said, look, can you go in and try and take away the samples, which we did. And we managed to take away most. There's still the odd one or two in there, which people can spot, but a lot of it was replayed stuff, but referencing.
So sometimes so hard to capture that the atmosphere of a sample sometimes. That grit. And
but it's an amazing amount of people that have come up to me and said, look, wow, man, you did all right.
It's a shame there was never a second album, got to say.
I don't know, because it's to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of that's mired in legalese, I'm afraid, which is a shame. But I think I did go as far. I mean, when I was making the singles on Afro Art, I went really far with some of the stuff there, like Headspace Lullaby, which to me is the record, I think, for Black Science, because we were incorporating, what people would now be calling grime. Do you know what I mean? Because we were using that kind of UK garage template as well, but also chopping it up with hip hop, the orchestra,
and that crazy percussion break.
Yeah, the crazy percussion break. And just listening to, to DJ Shadow and David Axelrod was coming into the, and so I think if we'd have carried on, I think we would have, we would have turned into something quite extraordinary. I think. I play a lot of re-edits out purely and simply because I think it's down to how the DJ actually plays it. I do a lot of my own re-edits, may I add, but they're purely for me. I mean, there's a couple of them sneaked out onto vinyl, but they're purely for me as a tool to extend something that I really love. Do you know what I mean? And just to make it longer or shorter or whatever. I think it's definitely overkill now, re-edit culture, without a doubt. I mean, people are re-editing the most strange
things that don't need
re-editing. No, absolutely. They don't need re-editing. When they're done well, I love them. They're great fun. They are great fun. They are, and that's just. I think that's just the two words, really. Great fun. The whole re-edit thing. I don't get involved with going online to DJ History or having these fierce debates.
Yeah. Talking of re-edits and talking about source material and inspirations in particular, I think you brought a couple of records here. To talk about things that have inspired you in the past and things that inspire you now. What do you got?
The first one is it's a Four Tops album, and this is after they left Motown and they signed to ABC Dunhill. Can we see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Great album, and there was a single off it called Keeper of the Castle, which I absolutely adore. But the tune on here, which was amazing. Well, actually, the whole album I think is wicked. But the tune on here is Love Makes You Human. And it was a big influence, I think, on the Ballistic Brothers. We loved this record, and we used to play this record out on the radio. We used to do we used to fill in on Radio London back in the day. I think I've got some cassettes somewhere of the shows, but I remember playing this and all of us just raving about it, saying what an amazing record, you know, sort of modern soul meets jazz meets northern kind of mad thing. And we just sort of immersed ourselves in those sort of records.
So for those who don't know, Ballistic Brothers was you yourself.
Well, it's myself, Dave Hill, Rocky Diesel, and Ushi Clarkson, who I've worked with on and off over the years. Lovely girl. Everyone thinks she's a bloke, but she's not. But Ushi's wicked, and that was the Ballistic Brothers basically, and one Ballistic sister. So yeah, and it was good. It was good fun. Really good fun. I think
they've got great legs, those records. I tell you.
Well, I was listening to Rude System the other day, and I was like, that was our psychedelic period. Do you know what I mean?
Man, I used to thrash Streets Are Real.
Yeah, Streets Are Real.
Yeah. What else was the big? What was the main single off that with Marching On? Was it Marching On?
Marching On, yeah.
Yeah, that still sounds fresh.
I still play the Masters at Work thing off here. It's just mad. Do you know what I mean? It's properly mad. It's funny actually because when I was talking earlier about music folding back in on itself, I've actually been gravitating to a lot of those really quiet, mad little mid-90s, early 90s tunes again, and just realising how current they sound now within the context of what's being made now. Very interesting.
Well, so there was, you know, especially with those Masters at Work style records, I mean, there was such high production values at the time, you know.
Even when they'd done the cut-up shit, man. I mean, when they put that first one out on their label, Moonshine, amazing, you know, and it's like that tiny little section of Gil Scott-Heron, Home Is Where the Hatred Is Live, and you're like, how? You know what I mean? And just the way they looked at it and caught it, I was like, genius. And the first time I heard Moonshine, I was like, wow, this is the shit, you know, this is where we're at now. Yeah. And that's actually been quite a big influence on me on how to manipulate a sample or a tiny sample and just work it. Do you know what I mean?
Did you find sort of hip hop much of an influence in that respect? Like
yeah,
working a sample?
Oh God, I mean, for me, it's that golden age. I think for a lot of us, you know, I still got loads upstairs, you know.
Primo and Pete Rock.
Pete Rock, Brand Nubian. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Still do. I know hip hop is where it's at now, and it's fine. The kids love it because it's about the kids, you know. But that's my favourite era, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, and when they were using those lovely soul samples, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And exposing those records, and you know, and it made you go out digging.
What have we got next?
Next, well, once again, I'll take this sleeve on because the light. This is Selflessness.
My favourite things.
Yes.
John Coltrane.
Yes. Lovely.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. You know.
Yeah. That's a thing of beauty.
Yeah. John Coltrane, you know, he's my avatar, really. Do you know what I mean? And in fact, my eldest son Harry is actually called Harry Coltrane Beedle. And I took him to the church of St. John Coltrane in San Francisco to be blessed.
Oh, fantastic.
Well, which I don't think the church is there anymore, but Alan Yentob did a programme on it recently about St. John Coltrane, because this particular church had him canonised. So I don't know if I'll take it that far, but what an extraordinary musician, you know, and alas, just a short life, really. You know, it's shocking. But for me personally, you know, first time I heard my favourite things, I was completely blown away. Do you know what I mean? And of course, I love Supreme, all the classic sort of Africa Brass, Naima, you know, all those sort of classic Coltrane records. And some of his stuff, obviously, especially his later period, is really difficult to get into. But I always say to people, you know, try. It's like a bit like doing your maths homework. Give it a go, try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always say to people, but I don't sort of evangelise to other people too much. It's just a personal thing for me with John Coltrane, definitely. You know what I mean? What he does for me, he uplifts you. You know, and dare I say, you know, music is about upliftment. You know what I mean? I think personally, it's about, you know, it's a beautiful thing.